Hello friends, good afternoon to you on this August 23rd in the year 2022. It's not often that I do this, but I was looking back over a video that I'd posted 1 year ago today called Maintaining Perspective. And it was a short video in which I talked about a proper response to the takeover of Afghanistan by we who are Christians. At the time, if you'll recall, rather than talking about politics, I talked about what had happened in our church that day, where our pastor had called us together to pray for the Christians in Afghanistan, the underground church that would be likely undergoing persecution as a result of the Taliban takeover. And it was interesting, of all the things that he could have talked about what he thought about the politics of that, that's not what he focused on. He focused rather on that real need, which caused me to give a video that day about maintaining perspective. Which brings me to my point. I've been back now from Brazil for about 20 days or so, and in that time I have begun to recover physically, but thank God I've not recovered fully spiritually. What a wonderful trip it was, and for those of you that prayed for me and the other missionaries who went along with the team of Brazilians who served, thank you so much. As I stated to you in some of my earlier videos, nearly 600 people made direct professions of faith, as well as countless churches and young pastors and ministers and leaders called out who can serve in the purposes of God, the real kingdom that we serve. I was reading in Hebrews today once again about the hall of faith that the writer of Hebrews talks about, and he begins to describe the wonderful heritage that we have in Christ. And he goes back to Abraham and he says, by faith Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to a place that he was to receive as an inheritance. And he went out not knowing where he was going. By faith he went to live in the land of promise, as in a foreign land, living in tents, with Isaac and Jacob, heirs with him of the same promise. It was a foreign land because, he writes, for he was looking forward to the city that has foundations, whose designer and builder is God. And those of us who know our history, especially Christian history, know of Augustine of Hippo, who wrote his argument, his great treatise, his great work called The City of God, which was a response to the people that blamed the fall of the Roman Empire on the Christians, its demise. And in it, Augustine argues that in this world there is that city of flesh built by human hands, but there's another city, another kingdom that's being built all along the way. And that's the kingdom that we as Christians pine for. We don't pine for Rome. We don't pine for places. We pine for that great city that is to come. And Augustine, whatever else you might think of him, was absolutely right in his writings. He was a product of his own generation and time, a bright man, obviously, who was deeply convicted about the need for the church to continue on. I thought about my writing about the church at Afghanistan, and I was calling that day on us to pray. And I had to reflect back over the past 12 months since I did that video. How often have I prayed for the people in Afghanistan or other Christians around the world? Maintaining perspective. Even Pastor Sam has to work at that sometimes, because it's easy for us to get caught up in the experiences of our everyday life, our children, grandchildren, our jobs, the merchandising of our own economies, our local politics, which is election day here in my state now in Oklahoma. All of those things can take us away from what really matters. So here's what I would say to you. I want to be more like Abraham, someone who's looking forward to a city not made with human hands, but the city of God. Not as a fatalist who doesn't care about what God has created, because he's done a wonderful thing here, but understanding this is but a glimpse, but a taste of that which is to come. And for us who are in Christ, that which is to come is for us to be with God forever in eternity. To be with one who created us, who loves us, who knows us more than we know ourselves, who's more concerned with us than even we think others might be. We lose that perspective. By losing that perspective, it affects our life, our goals, our ambitions, and it affects our time. In the time that we have left on this earth and the things that we have to do, maintaining perspective is most important. I saw that in Brazil. I was staying in the home in one of the cities in which the people I was with lived a very humble life. And in looking at their life and watching them, the way they lived their life and the way they observed me coming and going, hither and yon, back and forth, doing what I do, I realized that if they were in Christ, that for all the people that I might meet in Oklahoma City or Dallas, all the things I might do, I will actually spend more time with them because of their relationship to Jesus Christ in my existence in eternity than I will with anyone else. So many of the other people that I see and know. And yet I passed in and out of their house and did my thing. But on the last day, I looked at the woman who had housed me for several days, and not being able to speak clearly to her in Portuguese, but wanting to express some things, I held out my arms. And she stood, she rose to her feet. And as she hugged me, she held me tight. And she said, "Amo você. Amo você. I love you." And I held her tight and said the same. "Amo você também. I love you too." How could two people separated by language, culture, economics, so many things, how could we say that to one another? Because we are both citizens of another place. Are we not? So, today, on this day, wherever you are, I wonder if perhaps, like me, you need a checkup about maintaining perspective. Going back and seeing my old video helped me. Perhaps it'll help you too. Because I want to be like Abraham. Someone who's looking for a city. A city whose foundation is built by God. That's what I want to find for. God bless you. Have a great rest of this summer. It's nearly over. And this too, this heat, this too shall pass.